Shalom, shalom. And if you can hear me, type in yes. If you can hear me, type in yes. Hey, shalom, shalom, everybody. Shalom, Most High in Christ. Bless. Type if you can hear me. Type in Y for yes if you can hear me. Shalom, shalom. Okay. All right. Okay. All praises. All praises. I'm glad y'all can hear me. All right. I got a little delay on my end. You know, it's like a delay whenever we hit when we start or something like that. You know. So, but anyways, y'all. Yeah. Shalom. Most High in Christ. Bless. I'm Officer Nahum with IUIC Raleigh. Of course, you know, give you that. We're gonna give you the history in the AM. Just give me a quick little moment here, real quick. Just make sure I got things together. Yeah, the topic today is going to be our father from Isaac to Jacob, part 2. I know I had to cut it short on Genesis chapter 26, so I'm gonna start it back over on Genesis chapter 26. For those who tuning in, again, shalom, Most High in Christ. Bless. Good morning to y'all. So I'm going to go ahead on and get started on this real quick. All right, so this is the book of Genesis, chapter 26. And like in my Bible, I got little titles. I got titles in my Bible. I know some of y'all have titles as well. Some of y'all may not. But we got little subtitles. So chapter 26 will be Isaac denieth his wife. Right, so Isaac denieth his wife. So this is Genesis chapter 26 and verse 1. It says, and there was a famine in the land, right, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar, right? So now it let you know our forefather, what's his name? This is our forefather Isaac, right? So this is when he was living in the land of the Philistines at this particular time, okay? So, you know, you'll see our forefathers in them. They jumped around, they moved around, and you know what I'm saying? I'll show you a little Bible map here real quick. Bear with me real quick. I'll show you a little something just to kind of get you up to speed. So I'm going to jump here real quick. So we got so this map here is the journey of Abraham, right? They just get a good look for those that can tune in or who can actually see the transition that I'm speaking, but I ain't transition. All right, so I got a transition right here. So you'll see on the map here, show you where Abraham, how he left from the land of Ur of the Chaldees, which is in modern day Iraq today. You'll see how he went up to Haran. We can see where it says Padanaram. You see that? I want to say it should be in black or blue. I mean, the map shows real small on my screen. Then you'll see where he went down in red, where the Lord, the Lord told him, leave his land of nativity. So he went down into the land, land of Canaan. You know what I'm saying? This is where the Philistines have dwelt. Then it showed you in gold or yellow where he went down into Egypt during that famine, and then he went back into the land when he got kicked out of Egypt. Same thing with Pharaoh wanted his wife. Just try to touch you up to speed, get you all up to speed on what transpired through this little trilogy, you know what I'm saying, that I'm reading about our fathers, right? So like now we know he's back into the land of Canaan, right? He's amongst this is going into Isaac right here, right? So he's back up in there. There's a famine taking place, just like it was a famine during the time when when he had to go down into Egypt. There was a famine in the land of Canaan. So Egypt was a big, mighty nation still during that time. So now, Isaac, he's, there's a famine during his time, but he's dwelling in this specific part of Canaan, which is in the land of the Philistines, in a city called Gerar, or either a city or a town, or however you want to say it, right? So I just want to show y'all a little map, to show y'all that. I'm going to switch to a different one here real quick. Let me see. Just want to make sure I get y'all up to speed, and so y'all can kind of see what's taking place. As journeys to Abraham. Let me see. Then you got one here with Jacob. This one, Jacob. He did some journeys and stuff, so he was kind of in that same area, in that same land, So just jumping back and forth. I know I guess it's like a delay or something like that, so just bear with me. All right, so I'm gonna go back here, get myself back on the screen. Where you at? Okay, scene. All right. Okay, so I'm back over here on the screen, so we'll go ahead and read that. So, all right, this is Genesis chapter 26 and verse 1. It says, "And there was a famine in the land, besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar." Right, so in verse 2 is where we get. "And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of." So, he's letting them know what's going to take place. So he's giving them a vision, say, hey, this is where I want you to dwell at. Don't go down in Egypt. Your dad, say Abraham, he went down in there. I don't want you to go down in there. I want you to, sojourn, just pretty much stay here in the same vicinity, right, in the same landmass. Verse 3, "Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father." Right? So, just let you know, he's like, hey, look, I got this oath that I promised your father, right? So we'll jump back here to the oath, right? So let's go to Genesis chapter 22 and verse 16. Just kind of take you back, get you up to speed. So Genesis 22 and verse 16. I hope y'all can hear me. Can y'all hear me very good? Just want to make sure y'all can hear me. Type in there, just type in yes if you hear me very good, or if I need to speak up, if I sound low. Let me know real quick. I'm just looking at the chat myself. You see that in there? Let me know if you can hear me say. Just type in Y if you hear me very well, or N if you don't hear me very well, or you can type in there, hey, you sound low, officer, or whatever. Let me know. I'm looking here, guys. It's going to be a little delay for me, so you might see a pause for a moment. I'm looking to see what y'all going to type. Let me see if my scribe, is he on? No, he didn't make it on. But, yeah, let me know. I'm watching. All right. Okay, so make sure I'm okay. Like I gotta. Okay, I see y'all put yes. Okay, all praises. Okay. All right. So let me go. We're gonna go to that precept here. So this is Genesis chapter 22 and verse 16. This is the oath that he said to Abraham. So Genesis chapter 22 and verse 16, "And said, By myself have I sworn, said the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies." Right? So to let you know how he's going to pass that blessing, that promise from Abraham to Isaac. Okay, this is that oath that he made. Remember when Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac, and because he was going to do that, to show that hey, how his love and his how can I say, more, it's more than his love, it showed that he had faith and he believed in his God. Okay, a lot of us, our faith ain't as strong as our forefathers and them, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. A lot of us wouldn't, we probably wouldn't have done that thing. We probably been put to death or something. Would have hesitated, to do that. Just let y'all know that. But our forefather Abraham, he didn't hesitate. He made haste. Isaac, he made haste. Okay, so we'll jump back here to Genesis chapter 26 and verse 3. Okay, Genesis chapter 26 and verse 3 says, "Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father." Okay, he said, "And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed." Right. So again, what I'm saying, it mentions that too as well. If I'd have kept reading down to the next verse, so that that all the nations, right, will be blessed. What it's talking about when it goes into all the nations is referring to us. It's us being scattered. I just let's go to. Let me just hit it. We go real quick. Go to James 1:1 real quick. So James 1:1, it says, "A servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting." So we were scattered abroad. How were we scattered abroad? We go to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64. It says, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all the people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." Okay, so this is going to us. We're going to be scattered amongst all people, right? That's throughout all four corners of the earth, even the islands and everything. Because we scattered abroad. So wherever we be scattered to, you're going to serve other nations. You're going to be amongst them, and you're going to be worshiping their gods. Why would you be worshiping their gods? Because you in slavery, you in captivity. So when we went in slavery and captivity, guess what? You change your nationality. We didn't change it. They change our nationalities, okay? That's how we end up becoming like Puerto Ricans. You go to Puerto Rico, that's a nation, but we know that's the tribe of Ephraim, right? And to give you that for an example, then you got the Native Americans that's here in North America, right? I'm saying the Americas, North, Central, and South America, right? And they're called natives, right, or Native Indians. So, but that's another nation, okay? But they're Israel from the tribe of the Northern Kingdom. I'm just saying it like that. All the Northern Kingdom fall in unto the so-called Native Americans, okay? That's the native indigenous people of North America, North, South, Central America, and the Caribbeans. Okay, and one of the last one, we got our people that's scattered in, let's say like New Guinea. You got the Zulus. You got in Africa, you got all these different like tribes, the Ashanti tribe. So you got like the Bantu people. All these people are called outside of their God-given name. Okay, so that's also mentioned in Deuteronomy 28. That's going to be a curse. That's going to befall us. Okay, so that's what that's talking about. In verse, what we left off at in verse Genesis 26 and verse 4. All right, so I'll go back to that. So Genesis chapter 26, verse 4, "And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed." That's who will be blessed, the Israelites, okay? All right, verse 5, "Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." This is why, because Abraham obeyed. He listened, right? So let me give you another precept. Let's go to Sirach chapter 44. Let's go there real quick. Sirach 44. Got your apocrypha. All right, so this is Sirach chapter 44, and where am I at right here? Okay. And verse 19, 44, verse 19 and 20. Right, so this is Sirach chapter 44 and verse 19. It said, "Abraham was a great father of many people. In glory was there none like unto him." Verse 20, "Who kept the law of the Most High, and was in covenant with him. He established the covenant in his flesh." Right? Meaning, what are you talking about in his flesh? He's going into when circumcision, right? the foreskin of the men being circumcised. Okay, that's what that was when he established that covenant. Right, that's where circumcision started at. I went over that, early on in the chapters before. You can catch those, what I'm saying, our fathers, what I'm saying. You'll see the one with Abraham, and it goes into that, right? So let me read that over again. Sirach chapter 44 and verse 20, who kept the law of the Most High and was in covenant with him. He established the covenant in his flesh, and when he was proved, he was found faithful, right? How was he proved? When he proved him through, he was going to sacrifice Isaac, okay, what we had read back in chapter 22, okay? That's how he proved him, okay? And verse 21, it said, therefore he assured him by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed, and that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, okay? Meaning going into the sand of the sea, you got so many grains, you can't count that thing, right? And exalt his seed as the stars, and cause them to inherit from sea to sea, and from a river unto the uttermost parts of the land, right? So he's letting them know that's what he was going to do. Then you jump down to verse 22. It says, with Isaac did he establish likewise for Abraham his father's sake the blessing of all men and the covenant, right? Also, I'm going to just go read on down. Saying verse 23, and made it rest upon the head of Jacob. He acknowledged him and his blessing and gave him an heritage, right? What was his heritage? He gave him he gave him the land and he gave him the children, right? And divided his portions among the 12 tribes. Did he part them, right? So that's what that was going into. So he departed. We can read about that in the book of Joshua, right? That it showed when we went into war with the Canaanites and we fought against the Philistines and all those different nations. I'm going to say all descendants of Canaan, you know what I'm saying? So we fought them and took the land, and we divided those portions of the land, okay? All right, so let's go ahead real quick. Let me go ahead on and get this. I don't know why my end is like staggering or something. I guess my internet bad or something on my phone, but bear with me real quick, bear with me. All right. So back to Genesis chapter 22 and verse 5, right, is where we left off at. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws, right? So, I read that precept for you in Sirach 44 and 19 through 20, right? It said verse 7, and the man of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, she is my sister, right? So they asked him, hey, who's that female there? You know what I'm saying? So, Isaac using wisdom, he can't tell them that's his wife, so he say, hey, that's my sister, right? And he said, she is my sister, for he feared to say she is my wife, lest, said he, the man of the place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon, meaning she was beautiful. She was a fine sister to behold, right? So he was like, let me go on and say this. This is my sister right here, Verse 8, and it came to pass when he had been there a long time that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out at a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his wife, right? So what is that going into? So he's looking, he was like, man, he see him, messing with his wife. The word sporting mean he flirting with his wife, what I'm saying? He playing with her a little bit, you can tell when somebody's a couple, let's say you walk in or somebody, they may be holding hands or they real close and you be like, man, that's his old lady, or your sisters may be like, okay, that's her husband or something. We know in the world that they got so-called boyfriend and girlfriend, but there's no such thing as that in the Bible. So, but we can tell if they're in a so-called relationship, what I'm saying? Whether it's marriage or whether it's out, if it's not marriage, okay? So you can tell that how intimate they are, so how close they are to each other. I ain't gonna say intimate as far as sex, but they have, close, they're real, clingy to each other. I would say it like that. All right, so we read on down, verse 9. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, behold, of a surety, she is thy wife. He like, hey, that's your rib, man, that's your wife. And how how saidest thou, she is my sister? He like, why you gonna tell everybody that's your sister? Yeah, remember this same thing took place when when our forefather Abraham was in Egypt. He had to do the same thing. He had to say the same thing because our foremother Sarah was a beautiful sister to look upon, and she was of age, you know what I'm saying, and she still looked good. So you got to imagine, our people were in good shape. They walked around, they farmed, so they was out, always in physical labor, busy, moving around, from place to place, carrying things, doing farm work. So so we, if we probably look back, you look at, like a lot of our foreparents and them, that was like when I would say when they probably was coming out of slavery. In slavery, they worked the mess out of us, but when we probably was, during that time, like with the Jim Crow or whatever, a lot of us, a lot of our forefathers and them were sharecroppers, where they worked in the field, and like in Mississippi, like in the deep South, they either were picking cotton or tobacco, or you go down in the Caribbean, they were picking sugar cane and stuff like that, rice. So, our forefathers and them had land, and they tend to the land, and that's how they got their food. And so that's work, physical labor. But of course, we didn't try to kill ourselves like they try to destroy us in slavery. They worked us, starting at a young age. That's why you might have saw your grandma or your grandfather back in the days, and they leaned over, bent over, their body sore, they hurt because, hey, they did some hard labor, that work. All right, but, so while they're doing that work and that labor, is equivalent to us going to the gym, exercising. Think about you carrying, 50 pounds or you're moving around. You started from the morning all the way to the early evening, you know what I'm saying? All right, so I just want to bring that out, just show you that, hey, our foremother, Sarah, even when she was old, hey, she still was pretty and beautiful. Okay, why? Because she was in shape. She wasn't eating all that food and stuff that we eating today, which is unhealthy. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read that again. I done went on a rant. All right, so this is Genesis 26, verse 9. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, behold, of a surety, she is thy wife. And how saidest thou, she is my sister? Why you say that she your sister? And Isaac said unto him, because I said, lest I die for her. Right? He said, hey, I'm gonna get killed for her. You know what I'm saying? I gotta be wise. I'm not gonna let y'all know that's my wife. Verse 10. And Abimelech said, what is this thou hast done unto us? One of the people might lightly have lied with thy wife, and thou shouldest have brought guiltness upon us, right? So, because just let you know, just like, when you go to Genesis chapter 10, it show you when Noah, what I'm saying, all the sons of Noah and them, they had laws, statutes, and commandments too that was given to them through Noah. So, they passed that information on down to their sons. You can't, what is called the law of adultery. That law was throughout all four. It is still throughout, all four corners of the earth, because that law came, it still traveled down, and that's why you'll see in Genesis 12 about when we went into Egypt. Hey, the same, that same thing. Pharaoh had said the same thing, right? And then we hear it here, a Canaanite, that also descends from Ham. They're saying the same thing. They knew of that law, okay? And they would be held guilty of that law as well, okay, if they had committed adultery. So that's why, that nation outside of Israel, knew about that law, okay, because it came down from Noah, okay? Noah and his 3 sons and their descendants, okay? All right. Let's see here real quick. Jump on down to verse 11. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, he that touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. So he put the word out, hey, don't mess with him and don't mess with his wife, okay? If you do, I'm gonna kill y'all. You know what I'm saying? That's the oath and the law that he put out there, okay? Verse 13, and the man waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great, okay? So it just let you know that, hey, the Most High was blessing Isaac while he was in the land of Canaan. You know what I'm saying? He was there, and he made him great, made him rich. You know, he had a lot of cattle, a lot of everything. You know what I'm saying? Servants. And so he became a great man, you know, kind of like what we were read about in Job. Job was a great, mighty man during his time, you know, and he had a lot of things, a lot of wealth. So same thing with our forefather, with Abraham, and this thing passed down to Isaac as well, right? So and then it said, what is it, verse, let me see what I left off at. Yeah, verse 12. And then Isaac sowed in that land and received in the same year 100-fold. And the Lord blessed him. You know what I'm saying? So he's getting blessed. You know what I'm saying? The Lord is with Isaac. And the man waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great. Verse 14. For he had possessions of flocks and possessions of herds and great store of servants. And the Philistines envied him, right? So verse 14, you know what I'm saying, is let you know, hey, they envied him, man. They was hating on Isaac, right? So let's go to Ecclesiastes in your Bible. You know, don't get mixed up with Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes, verse 4, chapter 4, verse 4. Okay, Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 4. All right, it said again, Ecclesiastes 4 and 4 again, I consider all travail and every right work, that for this is a man is envied of his neighbor. Right? Hear that part right there? So again, I'm going to read it again. Again, I consider all travail and every right work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. So a man is envied of his neighbor. You know what I'm saying? For him doing right. You know what I'm saying? He getting blessed. So people start hating on you, you know. And he said, this is also vanity and vexation of the spirit. He's letting you know this is vanity. You know, shouldn't be doing this. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't have hatred for your brother or anybody. So, like, if you look back and we go back to the early part of Genesis, you know, with Cain and Abel. Remember, Cain, he didn't bring a good, sacrifice, you know, an offering. He was bringing in crops and stuff like that. And he had the animals and stuff to sacrifice, but Abel was doing what he was taught by Adam, you know, by their father. Hey, you know, hey, look, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to bring when you come and sacrifice. You know, just like how we saw when we went back to Genesis Genesis chapter 22. You remember when Isaac was a little boy, right? Remember he asked his father. He said, Dad. He said, where's the lamb at? You know what I'm saying? I know we got the sticks, we got everything here for the offering, but where's the lamb at? You know, and not know he was young, but he didn't know his dad was going to sacrifice him. You know, but his dad said, don't worry about it. The Lord will provide us with what we need. You know what I'm saying? He's like, okay. So but he understood because he came there with his dad and his dad was showing him, this is what you do every time you come up. So that's why he asked that question. But just showing you how, if we go back to Cain and Abel, he fall in unto this right here, meaning he envied his brother, and it became hatred. You know what I'm saying? Because he didn't want to do right. He didn't follow through what what's his name? What Adam, our forefather Adam, what he was showing, what he showed Cain and Abel both. You know what I'm saying? Hey, this is what you do. This is what you're supposed to do whenever you sacrifice. Okay? So, but just to show you, once people prosper, people have hatred. They hate, you know, they see people do well better than them. Okay? All right. And our forefather Solomon was explaining that and let you know that's a vexation of the spirit. So we'll go back to Genesis chapter 26 and verse 14, right? We'll go there, and it says, "For he had possessions of flocks and possessions of herds," right? I mean, he had a lot of substance and great store of servants. So he had a whole lot of servants, and the Philistines envied him. Okay, they envied him. They hate him. They like, man, look at this dude right here, man. He'll come in our land and he all, you know, rich. So that's how they was dealing with him. So verse 15, for all the wells which his father's servant had digged in the days of Abraham, his father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with earth. So let you know, they were like, hey, because you'll read about how Abraham had a lot of wells, you know what I'm saying? And, you gotta remember, everything he had was everything that Isaac had. Isaac ended up getting, you know what I'm saying? He inherited this stuff. So they stopped up all his stuff. This is when, Abraham is, was old at the time. He was older. He not, he in his hundreds and stuff. So, so now we got Isaac. He's out there and he's doing the work and stuff. He's getting he's getting blessed. So they stopping up all his stuff, right? Because they hate him. You know what I'm saying? They're like, we're going to stop up all this, right? So verse 16, and Abimelech said unto Isaac, go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. He's like, man, leave, man. Why don't you go, man? You got a lot of stuff. You rich, man. Hey, you can go ahead and depart from us, man. You don't got to stay here. So they want him to leave. Verse 17, and Isaac departed thence and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. So he went and dwelt in a different area of Canaan. Canaan was pretty big area. So now he like, well, go ahead on the pit. I'm gonna move over here on this side. Verse 18, and Isaac digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father. For the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. So when Abraham, he got old and he died, so just, all that stuff was given, was inherited by Isaac, and they started hating on him. They started, doing bad things to him. Just like it kind of like let's say, remember what's the movies, They or something like that, or Them. How would show our people when they moved to Compton, California. Compton, California, we know right now is the hood, right? A lot of our people there, a lot of Bloods, Crips, what do you call it, Mexican gangs and stuff like that. Issachar gangs, I would have said it like that. So it's bad, what I'm saying, out there. But before we came out there, Esau was there. And Esau was living, lavish and all that stuff. Then as we moved there, guess what? They started hating. They started giving us a hard time. But we ended up taking it over, But of course, when we took it over, it wasn't that bad and stuff like that until, of course, Esau, infiltrated with drugs and stuff like that, and he put us against each other. But at first, it was a thriving community. It ended up turning to a black community. But of course, it went down when we destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Okay, we start killing each other over foolishness and arguing over colors and blocks and neighborhoods and streets and stuff. All right, so. Right, all right, so I'm going to jump to verse 19. And Isaac servants digged in the valley and found there a well of springing water, right? So he got him a well of springing water, meaning, springing water meaning living water. That was some good fresh water. He said, they out there, in that land, so you had some desert stuff out there. Then you had, of course, that area would have vegetation too during that particular time. Before the Lord dried that land up. All right, verse 20. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen, saying, the water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him, right? So that word Esek, he gave it a name. Esek meaning contention, okay? That's what the word Esek means. He said, well, I'm going to call this place the little area, the land of contention. Because that well, that's the name of it. Because they give me contention and striving with me, in that area, right? So now we jump to verse 21. It says, and they digged another well and strove for that also, and he called the name of it Sitna meaning hatred. So now y'all striving against me. Now you coming at me again. So I'm gonna call this place hatred right here. That's the name of that area. It's hatred. Okay, verse 22, he said, and he removed from thence and digged another well, and for that they strove not. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't bother him during this time. And this also kind of, this kind of remind me of, hey, we'll be out there and we teach at camp, and then you get like another camp will come and set up directly across the street from you or right next to you. Why? And they're just showing you they envy us, man. That's what that's showing. Why would you go set up shop right there in front of someone and try to teach somewhat of the same thing, but we got the same somewhat goal of mind to go wake up our people. Well, why don't you go down the street somewhere? Why don't you go, hit you a different area? Why would you want to set up right next to us or across the street from us? But it's showing you striving, you got hatred, and it's all envy, and that thing is not good. Remember Ecclesiastes 4:4. It just let us know what that's going into. Well, our forefather talk about that. But it's bad that some of our brothers do that to us, even us supposed to be in this truth. All right, I ain't gonna say the name of the camp, but hey, it happens. All right, I know some of you brothers, y'all know about it. Some of you sisters, y'all seen it, videos of it, or heard about it, right? All right, so I'm gonna jump back to verse 22 again. All right, so this Genesis chapter 26 and verse 22, and he removed from thence and digged another well. So he had to leave that area. So I'm gonna go dig over here on this side. And for that they strove not. So they didn't give him no problems when he was digging in that area. And he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, for now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in this land. So that's what that means, room or space. Hey, you know what? They didn't bother us over here, so we're gonna call this space. We call this is our room and space. So we let them have that other stuff. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna end up taking it over anyways. That's how Isaac was looking at it. So I'm not gonna fight them. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let them have that, and we'll stay over here. And the Lord blessed them, and he had faith in that thing, right? And verse 23, and he went up from thence to Beersheba, right? So now he leaves and go to the land of Beersheba. I'm looking in here real quick. So I'm gonna just switch over. Let me do a transition real quick. All right. As y'all see, when you get a chance, you'll see Beersheba, right? Beersheba is, you'll see where you see when the bold letters are, where you see Ammon. That's all the way to the far right of the map, and you'll see Moab, right? And you'll see Edom below Moab, right? If you look to the left of Moab, kind of to the left, and you'll see that spot called Beersheba, okay? And you'll see how this is where our forefather was at right here during this when he left. In verse 23 saying he went up from thence to Beersheba, right? So now he went up that way. At first he was probably a little bit south of there, somewhere in that same vicinity, and then he just said, you know what, we're gonna go up into this area. This is a known town or whatever at that particular time. And so this is where he went, right? In verse 24, and the Lord appeared unto him the same night and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and I will bless thee and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. Okay? So he's letting up for that. That's what he said. I came to you because your father's sake. Verse 25, and he builded an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants digged a well, right? So he digged a well there, right? It said, verse 26, then Abimelech went to him from Gerar, and was Ahuzat, one of his friends, and Philcah, the chief captain of his army. So now now you got the king. He's coming toward him. I'm gonna transition this back. I just want to show you, in the map where exactly, the area where he was dwelling where he went to, and why he was there. And show you Abimelech and one of his friends and his chief captain. They came up to him, and I'll read verse 26 again. So I don't lose my train of thought. So this Genesis chapter 26, verse 26. And Abimelech went to him from Gerar, and Ahuzat, one of his friends, and Philcah, the chief captain of his army. So they come up here to meet Isaac and speak to him. Verse 27. And Isaac said unto them, wherefore come ye to me, seeing ye hate me? Right, so he already knows. He said, y'all hate me, man. Why y'all coming up? Why what you trying to talk to me for? Y'all give me hatred in this area. Your man, they stopping up my the wells and stuff. They giving me a hard time. So verse 28, you know what I'm saying? So he said, I see that y'all hate me, right? Okay, I'll read it over again. And Isaac said unto them, wherefore come ye to me, seeing ye hate me, and have sent me away from you. You told me to bounce, to leave, right? Verse 28, and they said, we saw certainly that the Lord was with thee. Hear that? See, they knew, because we see that the Lord was with thee, right? And we said, let there be now an oath between us. Let's make a oath between us. You know what I'm saying? And between our peoples, right? And thee, he said, and let us make a covenant with thee. So now he want to make a covenant, amongst Isaac, right? So because they see that, hey, you know what? When we was there in that land, hey, while the Lord was blessing us, hey, they were getting taken care of too, somewhat. You know what I'm saying? Things were going somewhat okay with them because we being there amongst them. It's kind of like, as y'all remember in the story, when our forefather Joseph, right, when Joseph was in Potiphar's house, hey, Potiphar was getting blessed because for Joseph's sake, and Potiphar knew that. Okay, he understood that. All right, so same thing with Abimelech. He understand that. He like, well, shoot, man, let us not get this man a hard time because hey, he got all these wells and stuff. Because the Most High might have started drying that stuff up, making things. He probably started tearing up their land with different type of famine and stuff, sicknesses. There's different things that take place. You know what I'm saying? When you try to mess with the Lord's prophets, okay, you do us harm, and Most High gonna jack you up. All right, so back to verse 28. So Genesis chapter 26, verse 28, and they said, we saw certainly that the Lord was with thee, and we said, let there be now an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee. Verse 29, that thou wilt do us no hurt, as we have not touched thee, and as we have done unto thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace. Thou art now the blessed of the Lord. I say, you blessed of the Lord. That's what they were saying. They say, we didn't, even though we had issues, we had problems, our people, but we didn't touch you. He's saying, like, hey, we could have killed you. We could have, did worse. But they were saying, but we didn't do that. We let you go in peace. This is what was coming out of their mouth, okay? We know eventually, what would have happened, they would have tried to kill them. So verse 30, and he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. It says, and they rose up betweenks in the morning, and swore one to another, and Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. Right. So they're showing you, even when they came to try to make things right or whatever. As far between Abimelech and his chief captain and his friend, as they came there, even to show Isaac, he even showed hospitality. He gave them, he made a feast. Okay, y'all came here, you apologizing. Okay, well, shoot, hey, we could do that. We'll make peace amongst us in the land. That's where this kind of all this somewhat. Nah, I ain't gonna say kind of. This is like a scripture. What is it? Romans 12 and I think 12 and 18. Let's go there real quick. Romans 12 and 18 real quick. I'll make sure we in the right thing. I know I'm quoting it right. So this is Romans chapter 12 and verse 18. They said, if it be possible, as much lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. So that's the main thing. We supposed to get the peace of the land wherever we dwell. I want to say, I think in Jeremiah somewhere it says the same thing. It tells us, when we was in that captivity in Babylon, he mentions that. He said, you want to seek the peace of the land. I hope I'm saying the right prophet, what I'm saying? But it does say that in the scriptures. Wherever we at, seek the peace of the land. You don't want to have no issues and stuff. So that's where it tells us, and where we at. And when you read Romans 13, you got to be in subjection to the laws of the land, and as you're dealing with the people there, as long as you're not going against God's commandments, but you want to seek peace wherever you at. So even amongst all men, So this is what our forefather was, what he was doing, okay, while he was there and dwelling with the Canaanites, okay, and showed that he also had hospitality, okay. All right, verse 31. So, actually, verse 30 said, and he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. So they had food and they had wine, or strong drink, or you know what I'm saying. Let you know they had a good time. In verse 31, and they rose up betimes in the morning and sware one to another, and Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. Right, hear that, in peace. Verse 32, and it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well that they had digged, and said unto him, we have found water. Say, hey, we found some water right here. Our Lord, how this is what they had said at that time, to Isaac. Hey, we found some water that we finally found that thing. All right. So, verse 33, and he called it Sheba. Therefore, the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. So, I go back here to the map and make the transition. All right. So, just like how we see, like I told you before, if you look, I got the map back up again, and you'll see on the far right, on the bottom of the map, you see Ammon, and Moab and Edom. So right there where Moab is in the middle, if you look to the left, you'll see that, I think that's the Dead Sea. If you look over further left, you'll see Beersheba right there at the bottom, right there. So that's where he digged that well, and somewhere in that region, we know. We're just going to go off this map, but we know Israel was way bigger than that, the landmass, or the land of Canaan, or what do you want to call it at that time. So we know it was way bigger, but we just going to use the map. This map was given to us from Esau, and it's showing, that's where that well was at, and it was called Sheba. Then, ended up becoming, it was called, what is it, let me read it right. Verse 33 said, and he called it Sheba. This is Genesis 26:33. It said, and he called it Sheba. Therefore, the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. Okay, so that's what that's going into, Beersheba. All right. So let's see here real quick. Yeah. So I just wanted to just get y'all that little vision right there. What you see in y'all Bible maps too. Yeah, it's in your own Bibles. You may see that area, and it's got names, and it's got the journeys and stuff of the forefathers and them, how they where they traveled to. This I got that from Walmart. You know what I'm saying? You can order it online too. That same book. It's called like Bible maps and stuff like that. It's a lot of good information in there. Of course they got Esau in there and stuff, but a lot of the content in there, the history, and like I said, like the maps, the garments, and things that it talk about. You know what I'm saying? It's biblical. It's it give you a vision, so you can get a broader picture of what took place, what happened, how things look. But we know Esau wasn't us, but Esau done put their faces on everything. But I just wanted to share that with y'all. So verse 34. It said, and Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beri, right, the Hittite. So Beri, he have a daughter named, Beri is a Hittite, and he had a daughter, and Esau married her, right. So it says Beri the Hittite and Bashemah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, right. So he had some more wives, which were in verse 35. It said, which were a grief of mine unto Isaac and unto Rebekah, right? So the parents and they was upset about that thing. They're like, man, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to marry within your race. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to don't go get no strange woman. Just show you what Esau did. He was hard-headed. He wanted to do his own thing, and both parents was upset with him about that. They didn't like that thing. Why? Because he did interracial marriage. Okay, so I touch on that. So we're gonna go to Genesis chapter 27 and verse 1. Okay, we'll jump into there. So Genesis chapter 27 and verse 1, and it says, "And it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim." Well, actually, before I jump to that, I'm gonna go get to that law real quick. Let's go to Deuteronomy. I think I'm gonna say 7. I'll pull this in a minute. So 7:3, I think I want to go to. So yeah, Genesis chapter 7. I'm sorry, Deuteronomy. Y'all bear with me, y'all. Early in the morning. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3. Let's see here real quick. It says, "Neither shalt thou make marriages with them." Right. So this is us coming in when we was coming out of Egypt. Right. So the Lord said, "Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou make unto thy son." Verse 4. "For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods." Okay, hear that? He said it'll cause them to fall off from serving the Lord. "So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly." Right. So that's what will take place. Hey, if we go and marry somebody outside our race, you're gonna have issues. You're gonna have problems. Okay. Also, we can jump to Genesis 24. Right. And because this is where he got it from, right? We'll jump here, go back in the past real quick in the story. So Genesis 24, and we can let's see here real quick. We'll start at verse 3, right? So this is Abraham talking to his eldest servant, right? So Genesis 24 and 3, he said, "And I will make thee swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of the earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell." Okay, verse 4, "But" means only. He said, but thou shalt go unto my country and to my kindred and take a wife unto my son Isaac." Okay, that's what he said. He said, this is where you're going to get my son a wife. At this time, Abraham was real old. He was old and stricken. He couldn't, make that journey and that travel like that. So, he said he put it on his eldest servant whom he can trust, and that servant went to go find him Rebecca. Okay, so I just wanted to show y'all that, and that's where he got that from. He didn't want his sons. He didn't want even Esau. You got to remember, Esau and Jacob were twin brothers. Of course, they were two different nations, but they still were Hebrews. You know what I'm saying? They still were, they're still under the same law, statutes, and commandments. You know what I'm saying? As Abraham, but Esau was a sinner. We read about that in Hebrews 12. What type of person he was. So, but it just show you that hey, that's what that's why the parents were upset about that he was supposed to marry somebody of the same kindred, not of the land. So Genesis 27 and verse 1. "And it came to pass that when Isaac was old, and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I. And he said, Behold, now I am old. I know not the day of my death." He said, "I don't know. I'm old. I'm getting ready to die. So I don't know the exact day, but I'm up there." Verse 3, "Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field and take me some venison." Right? He said, "Hey, go out there and give me some venison, man. Go out there and bring, go out there and do what you do, So let me jump here real quick. Let me go into my pictures real quick. I got some little funny pictures here, but which is real. So let's see here real quick. Where is it at? Bear with me. Trying to find it. All right, I just use it. Here it is. So, like you said, go out there, give me that venison right there. Right, I'm over here thinking the thing transition. So, all right, here it go right here. This the picture right there. This picture of Esau right there. He got some antlers, some deer antlers and stuff on him. Showing you that this man loves to hunt. Remember we read when you go to Genesis 25, it give you the attributes of Esau, you know what I'm saying? It give you also the attributes of us, of Jacob, but it shows what Esau likes to do, okay? I'm gonna go down some more. I'm gonna give you another picture here. Make this transition. Hey, Esau like he go out there in the field, right? So I'm gonna read that again. Genesis 27. So he like weapons. Genesis 27 and verse 3. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field and take me some venison. So go out there and go hunt me some meat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, of course, clean meat, some deer. Right, he says, and make me savory meat such as I love. I won't say a deer, but in that region, like of Northeast Africa and stuff, you had, of course, you had antelope. There was, I think because stuff that looked like a deer, but but it was called, they had their names. You know what I'm saying? What they call it, what you can eat. Certain clean animals out there. There was wild goat. Sheep, what do you call it? Wild, we got rams, you know what I'm saying? That's a sheep. So he said, go out there and give me that meat. Verse 4, and make me savory meat such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. Okay? So that's what he was saying. He said, hey, you got, I want you to go out there and get that thing for me there, man. You know how to go out there and hunt. You know what I like. That's what he's bringing out to him. So let me transition this back to y'all real quick. All right, where you at right there? Okay. All right, so transition back. All right. So you got to remember too. Also, let's jump back to Genesis 25 real quick, just to give y'all more insight real quick. So Genesis 25 and verse 27, right? Genesis 25 and 27, where it says, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter. So just as we saw in those pictures prior, Esau was a cunning hunter. He says, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. So he liked to chill in the crib, right? So verse 28, this is, and Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison. So he liked Esau. Esau liked to hunt, and stuff like that. He said, hey, he said he did eat of the stuff that he caught. But Rebecca loved Jacob, so Jacob was like a mama's boy. That's a lot of us, you'll hear that in the worldly songs, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I did it, everybody always speak about their mama, you know what I'm saying? Or mom this, mom that. So I just want to touch on that. Transition this joker back real quick. Actually, I was just showing y'all a picture of them right there, so I'm going to show you real quick of them together. The boys grew, right? All right, let me transition this right here. This showing you a picture here, this is like a depiction of Genesis chapter 25, how the boys grew and how he was a cunning hunter and stuff, okay? All right, so let me transition back real quick. So it says, and we're going back to Genesis 27 and verse 3. He said, now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field and take me some venison, right? And make me savory meat such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. Okay, so this is going into, Jacob wanted to give Esau, the oldest son, he wanted to give him the blessing, right? And we're going to read verse 5 here. Verse 5, and Rebekah heard when Isaac spake to Esau his son, right? And Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it, right? And Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, bring me venison and make me savory meat, that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord, before my death. Okay. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. So this is Rebekah letting Jacob, I need you to listen up to me, because this is very important right here. Okay. He said, go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats. He said, go get me two goats real quick, 2 young goats, and I will make them savory. I'll make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. Okay, and what he was talking about a kid, he wasn't talking about no, like a goat that was, still, on his mother's, this goat was weaned and everything. Just let you know, when we ate meat, what I'm saying, the what I'm saying, that they wasn't still milking from the mom or whatever. Or you would hear, what is it? I forgot that the meat that a lot of you hear people, Esau eat it, but our people too go eat it. They go get beef. I forgot what it's called. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't know if anybody can type it or whatever, but there's a meat that that they would get a young cow and and eat that meat, and the cow's still milking from his mother, so they're kind of like fatten it up some. I just can't think of what you call it right now, but I did know. You hear people talk about it real quick. Let me see. Hold up real quick. Let me see if I can find it while I got the time. I got to look this up because it's very important real quick, according to the class real quick. Young, let me put it here real quick. Young cow meat. It's called veal. That's it, veal. Yeah, so that's something we're not supposed to do. We ain't supposed to eat a young cow, that's in his mother's milk, or any kind of young animal that's still, that's clean, that's still weaning, that's not weaned from the mother. Okay, I should have put that down on my notes. I'm not gonna focus on it, but y'all, I may touch on it on the next class. But yeah, so I'm gonna jump back here to where we left off at. Okay, the Genesis 27 and verse 9. Right, it said, "Go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth." Okay, that he liked, right? So he liked, because that let you know our forefather, he liked that savory meat. He liked that good meat with some gravy and stuff like that. Verse 10, "And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death." Right, so he's letting you know. So it kind of let you know that venison, kind of tastes similar to like a goat. You know what I'm saying? At this particular time, before all that Esau done put chemicals and in the food and the vegetation and stuff. So they let they ate. You got to remember at this time we had fields and we had our own land and stuff. So the what do you call it? The herds in them will go out and eat. You know what I'm saying? The same thing that what a deer would eat. So the meat gonna taste the same, okay? Because whatever they eating is gonna go into the system, right? Alrighty. So verse 10, "And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death." And so verse 11, "And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man. He said, I am a smooth man." So that's something he said. He said he's a hairy man, but he said, but I'm smooth, right? So what is that going into? It just let you know that Esau was very, very hairy. You know what I'm saying? In transition, so he was a hairy guy. He had hair all over his back. Everything. Remember, he was born. He was hairy all over like a hairy garment, like a red. He was. That's just how he is. He got hair all over his back. Y'all remember, what is it? Back in the day, some of y'all might have watched wrestling and stuff. And you see some of them Edomite wrestlers, they had hair on their back. If they didn't have hair, most of them had got their back waxed and stuff like that. So they shaved it. But it let you know that if it wasn't for the bick or that that razor, hey, he'd be hairy all over. He'd turn to the caveman. Okay, like Captain Caveman, and Son. Now some of y'all remember that old cartoon. All right, so but it let you know that Jacob was a smooth man. He wasn't hairy like that. Okay, verse 12. He said, verse 12 said, "My father peradventure will fill me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver." He said, I don't want to look like I'm a liar. You know what I'm saying? That I'm trying to trick him. That's what deceive meant, right? He's going to trick him. He said, "And I shall bring a curse upon me and not a blessing." So this is what he was telling his mother. Verse 13, and his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice and go fetch me them. Okay, so she's letting him know the curse will be upon me. But I'm gonna show you something here in verse 20, chapter 25, real quick. We'll jump over here, Genesis chapter 25, and where we at, real quick. 25, and we're gonna go up real quick. Verse 22, right? All right, Genesis 25, verse 22, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? She's like, so if this is supposed to be a blessing, why am I having some of these complications, having them struggling in the womb, they moving around a lot, right? And she went to inquire of the Lord. Verse 23, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, right? And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So she's knowing, as she go seek the Lord letting her know, hey, look, you got 2 different nations in your womb. You're going to have twins, but they're going to be different. Their mannerism is different. Everything about them going to look different, okay? And, they twins, but they're going to be fraternal twins, not identical. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, right? And the elder shall serve the younger. So she remembered that, right? What's going to take place. So the elder going to serve the younger. And, as we know, you read in verse 25 and 26, we know who came out first and who came out last. And so she knows she knows of the blessing, who's supposed to receive it, and how it's supposed to go. So that's why she's, trying to make haste with this, with the blessing that's going to take place. Okay, because this thing here wasn't revealed to Isaac. It was revealed to her. All right, so let's go here real quick. Verse 13, Genesis 27, verse 13, and his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse, my son, only obey my voice and go fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother. And his mother made savory meat such as his father loved. So she don't hook that thing up. You got to think about it. When you go hunting at this time, you got to think about Esau. He's still out there hunting. You know what I'm saying? It's time. You got to have patience when you go out there to hunt or fish. Some things don't happen, automatic. It's like a patient waiting game. And Rebekah took verse 15, and Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob her son, right? So she put his clothes on him. You remember, Isaac was blind at this particular, he was legally blind at this time. Verse 16, and she put the skins of the goats. She put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hand, and upon the smooth of his neck. So let she had to put all this stuff on his neck and everything. Goat. We know the texture of a goat hair and sheep hair. We know sheep is wool. Wool is sheep, right? And we know black folks. Israelites. Blacks, Hispanic, Native Americans. Have like the woolly or curly texture hair. We know some of the tribes here are straight too, because there was a lot of mixing and stuff that took place during the other captivities, especially, when Northern Kingdom, matter of fact, like me, I'm from the tribe of Gad, for those who don't know. And, we know some Gad have woolly hair, but then some Gad have the straight long hair, because there was a lot of mixing with the Assyrians, the Persian, the Medes, the Babylonians and all that stuff, during that time, when the Northern Kingdom went into captivity. That's why, you kind of look, some of, like, I remember when I went to Egypt, right, when I was in the military, make a little quick story. I remember some of the Egyptians, when they saw some of our brothers from Puerto Rico, that was Ephraim, and they were like, you look Egyptian, you Egyptian. They were like, nah, man, I'm from Puerto Rico. He said, no, you got face like Egyptian. I remember those things, but it just showing you, there'd been a lot of mixing, but we know the real Egyptians didn't look like that. They were dark skinned, and It had woolly hair, but it was, when the Arabs or the Mohammedans or whatever came in, and the Ottoman Turks and stuff, they came in, raped, robbed, pillaged. Then you had the Greeks, then the Romans. So Esau got in there. So there was like a mixture. That's how that some of the people got lightened and stuff. And then also, a lot of people bleach their skin and stuff too nowadays, in the so-called Middle East, which was the land, like the land of Canaan and stuff, or northern part of Africa, north and the northeastern part, which is the land of Canaan. Okay. All right. Let me go back to where we left off at. Okay. But it's showing you that hair. Okay. We know the goat hair is long and stringy, like Esau's hair. Okay. So she had to put that on Jacob's neck and put it on his hands. Okay. So so the father, when he see him, he gonna be like, okay, that gotta be him, But anyways, so we'll jump down verse 16. Genesis 27:16, and she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands, and upon the smooth of his neck. And she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. Okay, and he came unto his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I. Who art thou, my son? So he knows. He's asking, like, who is this right here? Which son is this? He's asking. And verse 19, and Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn, and I have done according as thou hast badest me, as you commanded me. He said, Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly? Because he like, you done went hunting and got lucky and brought something back fast. That's what he's kind of saying. Like, how you come back so fast? Because for those who don't know, who don't go hunting, I know a lot of sisters don't hunt. You got some brothers. I never hunted, but I go fishing. But I know brothers that do go hunting. They gotta it take time. They go out there. They gotta put corn and to kind of bait them in. You gotta put out there for days and stuff, and in order to bride that thing in, or you gotta go out there where they at. And you still have to wait and sit until they come, to the area. Cause they're gonna come back to the area where they know there's food and stuff at that. That's how they get there. And then you got your stand or whatever, and you shoot them down, take them down. You know what I'm saying? So, but it takes time, and you be there all night, be cold and all that stuff. So, just bringing that out to y'all. All right. So, in verse 20, and it says. And Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord thy God brought it to me. He said, Most High bless you done brought that thing to me, Dad. And Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son. Let me come make sure that you the right son. I gotta feel you, find out who this is. He said, Whether thou be my very son Esau or not. Verse 22, and he said, And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, The voice is Jacob's voice. So, you gotta remember, he know the voices of his sons. He like, man, he like, you sound like, he like, you sound like Jacob, but okay, you feel like Esau is what he's going into. He said in verse 22, and Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He said, and he discerned him not. He didn't catch it. You know what I'm saying? Because his hands were hairy, as his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. So he said, that's him. Let me go. Come on, let me bless you. And he said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison. All right, he said, That my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. He got him some wine. And his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now and kiss me, my son. Come greet me. You know what I'm saying? Just like we tell our kids, come give us a hug, come give me a kiss. And verse 27, and he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment. He said, let me smell him. He said, and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is a smell of a field, which the Lord hath blessed. Man, that son, he was musty. He smelled, you know what I'm saying? I remember in the military, I had this dude named, his last name was Garcia, but he wasn't Northern Kingdom. His mother was Northern Kingdom, but his father was Esau. And he was kind of hairy and stuff too. And he always smelled funky, you know what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong, the dude, you go in his room was nice, it was clean, everything was nice and neat, man, but he just had a stench on him, like the smell. I was like, damn. And one time, one of our NCOs was like, hey, he said, hey, man, he cussed him out. He said, hey, man, why you always stinking stuff, man? You smell. He said, next time I'm going to write you up. So, well, I remember that, though, but he had that stench on him. But he was, he had nice clothes and everything. He just couldn't get rid of that smell. But it'd be funny, though. We clowned him about it. But let me go back. Verse 27, he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is the smell of a field which the Lord hath blessed. Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and wine. So he's showing them the different type of blessings that he's giving them. He said, let the people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, right? And let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. These are like some of the same blessings that the Most High had gave to Abraham too. You know what I'm saying? As well. You know what I'm saying? And he gave it. The thing passed on down to Isaac. Now it's passing to Jacob. Okay. Verse 30, and it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father. So once he got that blessing, he took off. He was gone. He said, okay. That Esau, his brother, came in from his hunting. Now Esau coming in with the venison. And he also had made savory meat and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, who art thou? He said, who is this? He's like, hold up for a minute, man. You just came here already, man. What are you talking about? Who is this? And he said, I am thy son, the firstborn Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly. He like, huh? So he trembled. He was like, what the heck? And said, who? He said, where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me, and I have eaten of it all before thou camest, and have blessed him, yea, and he shall be blessed. He said, yea, this man, he gonna be blessed, because I already gave him the blessing. And verse 34, and when Esau heard the, let me see, what is it? Verse 34, and when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, bless me, even me also, my father. He said, hey, bless me. And he said, thy brother came with subtlety, and have taken away thy blessing. He came in quick, man. He was good with it. Verse 36, and he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? Verse 3 is where it says that is a supplanter. That's what Jacob means. He said, is not he rightly named Jacob, for he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? This is what he asking his father. But yeah, remember, he know you sold your birthright, right? So you not the firstborn no more. You gave that up for a morsel of meat. Verse 37, and Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? I done gave him everything. What can I do for you? And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And even Esau lifted up his voice and wept. He cried, you know what I'm saying, about this thing. Verse 39, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. He said, you're going to, you know, right now, as we see, yeah, they got military bases, they got everything all over the whole earth, right? They everywhere, right? And he said, and, you know, everybody's in subjection to them. He said, verse 40, and by thy sword shall thy live. You're going to live by your weapon. That's how you're going to live, how you're going to get everything. You're going to rob, steal, kill, whatever. And shall serve thy brother, but you're going to serve your brother. Just, you know, but that's going to happen because I gave him that blessing. And it shall come, what it means, he's going to serve his brother, meaning the kingdom to come, okay? And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Okay, that go into Genesis. Well, no, I can't go into the priest. I'm looking at the time. All right, so verse 41, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. I mean, he said, you know, Isaac he's old, he's getting ready to die, you know. So, you know, once he said, and I will slay my brother Jacob. He said, once he die, I'm gonna kill Jacob. Why? Because he's saying Jacob took his, you know, had supplanted him, you know, and took his birthright and took his blessing. He didn't take his, you gave up your birthright, you know, so you lost your blessing. You know, that's just how that go. It was prophesied before they came out of the womb, you know, and she also will prophesy all the way back from Genesis 1 between, you know, what is Satan and in the Garden of Eden, you know what I'm saying? You know, all that stuff would prophesy all the way from back then. From Genesis 3, I want to say chapter 3. Yeah, so so now we're in Genesis, this verse 42 in chapter 27. And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau as touching thee. You know, so he, you know, your brother, he's upset with you, does comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. He's talking about he's going to murder you, he's going to kill you. Verse 43, now therefore, my son, obey my voice, and arise, flee thou to Laban, my brother, to Haran. Right, so remember, so now this is Rebekah's brother right here, which is Laban, right? So remember, we go to Genesis, we go back to Genesis chapter 24, you'll read about Laban. Okay, all right. So I'm just let you know where to go to if you forgot who he was, or you know, those who don't know, that's new. All right, so. Verse 44, and tarry with him a few days until thy brother's fury has turned away. So it's just like, you're going to stay with him, chill there until he's not angry no more. Verse 45, until thy brother's anger turns away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him. When I will send, he said, I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be upset with you, you know, that you dead and he done killed you. You know, that like go back to what happened in Genesis, you know, with Cain and Abel. Verse 46, and Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth, right? That's going into them Canaanites and, you know, in the land. It said, if Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as these, which are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me? He's saying like, man, I want my kid to marry them, and you know what I'm saying, and I'll be upset about that thing. He's there in that land. Let's go ahead and send him. He need to go get him a wife. That's what he's bringing out. So with that, I'm gonna close this out with Tobit 4 and 12. All right. So Tobit chapter 4 verse 12. This Tobit talking to his son. He said, beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers. Okay, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe, for we are the children of the prophets. Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they all married wives of their own kindred. Hear that? Of their own kindred. See, this is where they get, you know, He let them know. And were blessed, in their children, and their seed shall inherit the land. Okay? We know Isaac is one of them, and Jacob is the other, what it's going to, and Abraham as well. He says, verse 13, now therefore, my son, love thy brethren, love your people, and despise not in thine heart thy brethren. It said, the sons and daughters of thy people, and taking a wife and taking a wife of them. So if you marry outside your nation, you hate your people. You hate your nation. You know, those who didn't know that. It said, for in pride is destruction and much trouble, and lewdness is the decay of great and want, for lewdness is the mother of famine. So he's letting you know, don't do that thing. Stick with your own race, stick with your own people, and the Most High will bless you for that thing. Okay, if not, those people they're gonna stray you away from the Most High and cause confusion. But all praises. I'm gonna stop right there, y'all. I hope y'all gained something from the class. Again, the title was Our Father from Isaac to Jacob. Okay, so I did get to finish chapter 26. I had to go back and redo 26, and I did finish chapter 27 as well. So Lord's will, to the next time, you know, I get to we go into chapter 28, okay, and maybe a few more of the chapters as